So you've probably heard of the 5 principles of integral journalism. But what if I told you that the simple names for these principles are hiding a really profound depth? In this explainer, we're going to peel back those layers and discover what's really going on underneath the surface.
Let's start with that question right there. What if these familiar terms are hiding whole new worlds of complexity? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today. First up, we're going to start by deconstructing our own reality.
All right, let's dive in with the first 2 principles: development impulses and bias awareness. Now, these aren't just buzzwords, They represent a fundamental shift in how we see and how we report on the world around us. Okay, so the term development impulses is a perfect example of this hidden depth. You might hear it and think, oh yeah, development, I get that. That's just constructive journalism, right? But honestly, there's so much more behind that simple phrase.
So check this out. It breaks down into different levels of complexity, which the source material calls E6, E7, and E8. At the E6 level, it's about reporting on solutions to individual problems, kind of like classic constructive journalism. But then, when you move to E7, the whole focus shifts to transforming entire systems. And at the highest level, E8, integral journalism actually examines the very principles of development itself. It gets so nuanced that it's about choosing language so sensitive that it avoids triggering the immune systems that naturally resist change. Wild, right?
And this pattern of going deeper applies to every single one of the 5 pillars. Take bias awareness. This is way more than just knowing your own cognitive biases. It's about building an automatic, fundamental habit of questioning the collective truths, the narratives, and the norms that quietly shape our reality.
And this awareness, it actually evolves in stages. At first, you just start to notice your own biases. You catch yourself making a snap judgment. Then your view gets wider, and you start to see the collective biases, what the source calls the bias stacks that our culture produces. You might report on things like discrimination, but here's the crazy part. By simply pushing against them, you can paradoxically end up reinforcing the very frameworks you want to dismantle. The final stage is what the source calls frame regie, or frame direction. This is where you're not trapped anymore. You can actually float between frameworks, understand their logic, and even create completely new ones.
This image just illustrates that leap perfectly. You're no longer just observing the patterns in the rug. You're actively weaving the tapestry of reality itself. You can create whole new categories, new lenses, and you can direct the frame from a rich repertoire of perspectives, depending on what the context calls for.
Okay, let's move on to the next 2 principles and see how this all builds. This is where we explore richness of perspectives and empathy, and how they pave the way for a much deeper form of connection and understanding in journalism.
So what does richness of perspectives really mean? Well, it starts with the balanced reporting of mainstream opinions, sure. But it quickly evolves to embrace unconventional views, diversity, and even contradictions. But the ultimate goal? It's about synthesizing all this diversity into a bigger context, creating a genuine fusion of perspectives and polarities that uncovers deeper truths and actually helps move society forward.
And then we've got empathy. This principle also starts with a concept we all know, thinking about others. But just like the others we've talked about, it evolves into something way more profound and, embodied.
At first, empathy is more of a cognitive thing, a theory of mind. You're literally just thinking about what other people might be thinking. But then it deepens into an actual embodied resonance, both with others and with yourself. And the most advanced stage? It involves using the tiniest physical and imaginative nuances from inside yourself as direct information that flows right into the stories you're telling.
This graphic just captures that shift perfectly, doesn't it? It's a journey from a purely intellectual, head-based understanding to a holistic empathy that involves your entire being. So the really crucial point here is, it's not just about thinking, it's about feeling and sensing on a much deeper level.
And finally, we arrive at the 5th principle, discourse maturity. And this one is really the culmination of all the others, bringing them all together to create a completely new kind of communication.
This timeline really says it all. Discourse maturity isn't just about getting over a confrontational, against each other style of debate. It moves beyond just talking next to each other in a discussion, and even past talking with each other in a true discourse. Ideally, it's about our perspectives literally flowing into each other in a process of genuine co-creation.
Okay, now it's really important to be realistic.
The source makes it crystal clear that it would be totally utopian to expect this kind of journalism to just pop up overnight. This is an ideal, a direction we can strive for.
The reality is, conventional newsrooms often really struggle with these deeper layers. But progressive newsrooms, they tend to be more open to concepts from that E7 space, that level of systemic transformation, even if they're not familiar with all the terminology.
So how long is this all going to take? Well, according to the source's author, Schultz, it'll probably take years, if not decades, for truly integral newsrooms to become a mainstream thing. This is absolutely a long-term vision.
So, what's the key takeaway from all of this? And where do we even go from here? Let's take one last look into the future of this whole approach. Ultimately, what this shows us is that the principles of integral journalism aren't static rules. They are more like developmental paths. Each one opens up a space that just gets wider and deeper with every stage. The future of journalism, then, doesn't start with some new tech or format. It begins with the depth of the next question we dare to ask ourselves.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If this has sparked your curiosity and you want to really explore these concepts in a practical way, Stefan Schultz offers some amazing in-depth coaching and workshops. I really hope this has given you a new perspective on the future of journalism. Thanks for watching.